Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 19.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, this is Small Biz Life. I'm Kristen Ingram. I've got a cup of coffee in my hand and I'm raring to go today.
And I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram. I have a cup of coffee in Kristen's hand and an egg and cheese bagel sandwich in Ra's mouth.
So we're ready.
Yes.
We are pumped to go. The title of today's podcast is Facebook Profiles, Pages, and Groups.
Oh my.
And so we know that this is something that we actually get a lot of questions on in the group and through email. So we thought we would devote an entire episode to this topic. But before we get there, we are going to start with what's in the news. What'd you find this week?
There's a new plugin. I've not had a chance to check it out yet called AMP. I'm assuming that they call it AMP, but it is AMP. And
You never know with computer stuff.
Essentially, it is a Google service designed to accelerate mobile pages.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And so the idea is Google is really trying to push for faster mobile pages. And in theory, according to the claim, it can increase the load time of your page 4 times by doing this.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm planning to check it out a bit more. There is a Twitter, Google, and WordPress all support accelerated mobile pages project. And in the article, there's a list of some more details. Is also planning AMP support on WordPress.com. So if you have one of the .com WordPress sites, it should also affect you. And the idea of it is essentially it helps move about the way the pages are loaded. And it also sort of uses Google to help kind of cache your pages. So it's almost kind of like a free version of a CDN, which for those of you who do not know what a CDN is, I should probably cover that. And a CDN is a content delivery network. And if your website's becoming big, one of the issues might be the location of your shared WordPress site. It's probably on a shared server somewhere, or maybe you have your own server because you love having a server and you want to have your own server. But there will be a delay in delivery time and request time back and forth to your server from the location the other person's at. The farther they are from your server, the longer it takes for them to get access. And there are services like Cloudflare and other content delivery pages that will help in general with this because they will sort of cache static versions of your pages all over the net. And AMP is supposed to do the same thing for mobile.
Nice.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to check that out this week.
Oh, most definitely. And they actually do have a CDN as well, too, that it might be worth checking out as well. It is all in the article. And the article also gives you step-by-step installation instructions.
Yay. So we'll put that in the show notes. So if you go to smallbizlife.com, click on episode 20, you can see the link to that article in the show notes.
And actually looking at step 3, it is available if you go into the search box under plugins and type in AMP-WP.
Awesome. I will check that out this week.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm always looking for ways to speed up the websites.
Yeah.
Because Google rewards you in the search engines when your page loads quickly.
And I believe we talked about this briefly before, but they do look at both desktop and mobile. The faster you are on both, the more Google likes you. The more Google likes you, the easier it is for people to search and find you.
Right. Awesome. I like that.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you were talking about mobile because my article this week is actually about Facebook, since we're talking about Facebook this week.
Okay.
And it's called 17 Powerful Facebook Stats for Marketers and Advertisers. This is from Sprout Social, which is, they have a lot of great content about social media, kind of like Social Media Examiner. You know, those are two really good sites if you're looking for more information on social media. So just to kind of go through some of the stats that they're talking about, this article's from June of last year. In the first quarter of 2015, which is about a year ago, there were 1.44 billion monthly active users on Facebook.
And that's billion with a M?
Now that's billion with a B.
Oh.
So if you figure, you know, they say to put this in perspective, there are more Facebook users than the entire population of China. So there are a lot of Facebook users out there. And 1.25 billion of those are mobile users.
Wow.
So I think that's huge.
No, that is definitely very huge. And once again, it shows the growing importance of being mobile ready. You know, make sure your website can be viewed well through mobile. I know some people will argue that maybe their avatar is not online, but the sooner you can be prepared, one, when they do go online, they're more likely to use you, and more people are getting smartphones of all ages.
The fastest growing demographic on Facebook right now is over 60.
Yes.
And think about, like, you know, your grandparents and your parents that are coming online that are retired. You know, most of my aunts and uncles are on Facebook. My mom's on Facebook. She's 76.
And to put that into context too, her mom struggles with consistently accessing stuff through her laptop. So now she's on mobile and as well. So, I mean, keep this in mind. When people get online, it's a lot easier for them to use a phone, especially with Facebook. There's great apps for Facebook to interact on your phone.
Well, and mobile doesn't just include phones. It also includes tablets. So if you're thinking about, you know, maybe your parents, your grandparents don't have a smartphone, but they have a tablet that they're using, like, to read, you know, and then they're also using that to get onto Facebook.
Especially your Kindle Fires, those, I'm assuming, are probably doing well with the senior population who likes to read ebooks because they're easy to get access to. And then on top of it, they're like, well, maybe I'll start at someday looking at other things, and they might. So you have to be prepared. Don't get caught behind that curve.
Yeah, and if you think Barnes & Noble's Nook is now powered by Samsung. So you're getting a tablet when you buy it.
Yeah.
You know, and it has all the Facebook apps
So
and
it's trying to
everything.
be more competitive with Amazon
Fire.
that way.
Yeah. 936 million, or so you figure about 2/3 of Facebook users are daily users. And
You say 2/3?
2/3
Wow.
are using it daily.
I can believe that, though.
And almost 800 million, 798 million mobile daily users. So that's crazy. That's a lot of people. Now, the reason, you know, some people are saying that Facebook is no longer relevant, you know, that there's these other social media platforms that we need to, you know, focus on. And depending on the type of business you have, that is completely true. However, Facebook, the average American spends 40 minutes a day on Facebook.
Yeah. And that's really where Facebook is killing most social media, except for maybe YouTube.
Right. And the thing is, like, and that's the one thing is, like, YouTube is not included on this list. You know, that's one thing I don't like about it, because YouTube is actually the largest social media network.
Yes.
Some people don't see it that way. But if you think about it, you can subscribe, right? So you can like channels, you can interact with channels, people comment there. So
Yes, a subscription is they're following you.
right.
You know, they can comment on your material. They can share out your material, not only to YouTube, but to probably, you know, any other social media out there.
The rest of the social media on the list, they say Tumblr's 34 minutes a day.
I don't get Tumblr.
I don't either. It's like a microblogging site.
Yeah.
I don't really see it as social media.
It's sort of, yeah.
Instagram is 21 minutes. Pinterest is right behind with 20.8 minutes. Twitter 17. Snapchat 17. I didn't even know Ello was still around.
Ello is still around, and Google Plus is still around.
That's true. So Ello is 13 minutes and LinkedIn is 9.8 minutes. Facebook is beating out all of their competitors, you know, the big ones that you think about, like Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, more than double the time.
Yeah.
Right. People are spending on those sites. So I thought that was really interesting. This is pretty interesting too. They said that 24% of non-adopters are using somebody else's Facebook account. So if you think about, like, you know, I know a lot of people that maybe their spouse doesn't use it, but according to this research, 24% of those people are looking at photos and updates on somebody else's account.
Well, think about it too. It's like we have some friends here in Windsor who actually both have one Facebook account, and they're actually like, you know, Generation X people. So it's not like they're even older. Just that's the way they use it.
Right. 75% of Facebook videos are viewed on mobile devices. So if you're doing video on Facebook, you want to make sure that, you know, you're not using small text that people aren't going to be able to read. Mm-hmm. So this has a lot of really interesting stats. We're going to put this in the show notes as well. And just one more thing, since we're going to be talking about pages, 49% of consumers like a Facebook page.
Wow.
40% of consumers don't like any pages at all.
I believe that. I mean, especially now, since they got the algorithm back, I mean, it's almost not worth it. I mean, you do it when you stumble upon, I do it when I stumble upon one where I like it, but I almost probably never see an update from that page, which kind of annoys me.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about some of the stuff as we get into the main topic of today. So there's a whole bunch of other statistics in that article that we did not get to. I highly encourage you to check it out in the show notes because there's a lot of really good stuff in there.
And even if, you know, your social media wasn't talked about here, it could be talked about in there. And they might give you things to think about. Like I never thought about this until that article, you know, is if you make videos to upload into Facebook, think about stuff like the next because it's mobile.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, because I have a YouTube channel, I think about things like that because even though I don't have a huge percentage that watch on mobile, that percentage is growing. So I'm trying to be more aware of the colors I use on the screen, the size of the text. So
always remember colors. And I think the thing that works for me is, you know, I'm involved in a lot of web developing and desktop application developing. One of the people in my unit is actually low vision, and I help him a lot of times getting things and very expensive software working to where he can use them. And sometimes being a person that doesn't have low vision, you don't understand the contrast issues that come about. Be good to your users. Some of them do have low vision as well. Some of them are colorblind if they don't have low vision. Keep these things in mind. You want a high contrast when you use text.
We're going to start at the basics. And for some of you, this might be too basic, but I think it's really important to go through the differences between a profile, a page, and a group. Because I think there's still a lot of confusion about that. And we're going to talk about some of the rules for each one and the purpose of each one. Okay. So let's start with profile. So what's a Facebook profile?
Facebook profile is your user on Facebook. It is the person that you are when you join Facebook.
Right. So this is, you know, a lot of people consider this their personal page, right? This is what comes up when you log into Facebook. A profile is meant for you, an individual. It's not supposed to be a business name, and it's not supposed to be a fictitious name.
And if you look at the Facebook terms of use, they want what they call identifiable users in Facebook. They do not like fake names even. And you probably won't get in trouble if you use one. But if you do, you might get banned.
One of our friends got notified last week because he was using a fictitious name. And they're making it, he either has to change his name or he has to send in his ID saying that that's really his name.
So, wow.
They are cracking down on this.
And they always do. But I mean, still, when you have 1 billion users, it's possible to get away with stuff, or at least for a period of time. But understand, if you don't identify yourself, who you are, and Facebook figures it out, that you just heard what will happen. They will take you down too if they don't believe you.
Well, and here's the thing. Your profile is how you are going to be identified when you interact with pages that do not belong to you and all groups. Mm-hmm. So if you put a funny name or a quirky name, you may not be seen as professional when you're interacting with people in groups and in pages. One of the things that I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to not put anything on Facebook that you wouldn't want your mom to see. And now your mom might actually be on Facebook. So the other thing that you want to do is you want to set up your profile, especially if you're using this for business. You want to set it up so that your business name shows up in your profile. And if you have a business page, which we'll get to pages in a couple minutes, you can actually link, when you put in the title of your business, you can actually link to your business page. Yeah. So anybody, who sees one of the things I work for is, Kristen Ingram CPA, they can actually click on my page and go to the page for my business and learn more about my business. So, you want to have a professional picture. If you're in business, you want to make sure that you have the name of your business and your link to your page.
And links to your actual website URL.
Yes, and a link to your website. And you can do all that in your profile. Then you can go into the security settings and you can determine, you want your profile to be public. So that way people can see, what's your business. Okay. Click on, they can get to your page from there. They can learn a little bit more about what you're doing, but you can keep your posts as friends only, or, friends and friends of friends.
Yeah. Which is, I think, really important to keep in mind, especially with who you're interacting with. It's like, I know I do, and I believe Kristen does the same. Anyone who asks us for a friendship pretty much gets accepted as long as Facebook will allow us.
And I think, as long as I don't think they're a spammer, like usually I look to see, do we have anybody in common? Like I'm getting much more particular about.
No, I'm not. I'm just like, whatever. And then occasionally I do get, I've actually become less caring because now I get spam requests directly through the Facebook Messenger and they're not even my friends.
Yeah.
And because of like the shows, I usually accept because I want to see, does this person have like a question for me? Then they're like, hello. And you click through the profile and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You have 6 things. They're all pictures. I don't think that you're here for questions about my show.
Yeah. So, shows. But you can change the privacy settings for what you post so that not everybody can see those.
Yeah. And especially if you keep it family related and people in your family are very privacy conscious, you might want to do that just out of respect to them.
Right. I don't recommend you having 2 different profiles.
Yeah.
A lot of people try to do that they have one profile for their family and one profile linked to their business. It gets way too confusing and it's too hard for people to find you. Okay. So the other thing with a profile is you are limited to 5,000 friends on Facebook. And I know that might seem like a lot, but if you're building a business and you're doing a lot of networking, it might not be hard to blow through that limit. You can also turn on something called allow subscribers, which means that people can subscribe to you, but they can't comment on your stuff. Okay. So, that's kind of one way that you can get past that number if you want. A lot of like big authors have issues with that because people try to like friend them directly or they want to follow them directly because people are stalkers. They are, so they think they can get like another bit of information about this person. Okay. So your profile is you online, right? Yeah. That's you.
And I do think most people, when they become large enough because of that annoyance factor, usually become very restrictive on their profiles.
Right.
And you can do that if you keep it separated.
Right. Yes. And that's where the privacy, things come in. Okay. pages.
Mm.
Okay. A page, this is your Facebook profile for your business when you create a page. Would you agree with that?
Probably. I mean, it doesn't need to be, but it could be.
But it's like, it's for, if you're a speaker, you can have one
You'd
for
have a speaker page. Yep. I mean, if you're sort of like a speaker or a writer, you might have a couple pages. But yeah, I mean, it's your business. It's going to be the feed to where you're dumping your post from your website or your podcast or your YouTube channel.
This is not what you want to use if you're seeking large amounts of community interaction.
Until you're the size of Apple.
Right. Until you're the size of Apple. So when you post to a page that you own, you post as the name of that page. Mm-hmm. So we have a page that's called Small Biz Life Podcast. When I post on there, I post as Small Biz Life Podcast.
And if I post on there, guess who I post as? Same thing.
Yeah, because we're both administrators on that page. If you have a Facebook page, you want to have another administrator. You want to have at least two.
Always.
Right, because I actually know somebody this summer who had their Facebook profile deactivated and lost access to their page. So you've got to be really careful, having multiple administrators, even if it's like your spouse, just so that
someone you trust.
Right. You want it to be someone you trust so they don't hijack your page. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is where, when you go on Facebook and you click like, you're liking a page.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Typically people will only see what the page owners post.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to allow non-page owners to post, but it goes into a little sidebar on the left.
Yeah.
And most people don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can allow people to post on a page. Just be aware that their posts really aren't going to show up for your readers to see, especially on mobile.
And I usually try to be kind of restrictive when I set pages or groups, either one, to where I don't necessarily want to discourage posting, but it's like, it's the fear of spam. So you have to, understand that. And like, if you go into the about for Gardule, I'm quite explicit that if you post stuff I don't like, I'll block you.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things with pages is you don't really have a lot of control over who likes your page.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to say, I want to confirm that it's okay for you to like my page.
You just turn off the writing if it becomes a problem there.
Right, exactly. When you invite your friends to like your page, it does not add them to the page automatically. You're sending them an invitation saying, hey, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to like this.
Yeah.
The engagement for pages is very low, unless you are paying to boost your posts. One of the reasons, though, that I like having a page is that I have the ability to boost a post.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that with a group.
No. And the way I look at it is a page is really the place where you keep your stuff out there. So in case people find you or they might happen to see it in their feed. Typically, the way it works is the more interaction it gets in a shorter period of time, the more likely it is to grow naturally. But I don't even know if at this point you could have a truly viral Facebook page post. I'm sure you can.
If people share it, you can.
If people share it. Yeah, and that's about the only way, because coming from the personal profile, and I think one of the reasons some people still want to use personal profiles are you have the ability, you get seen through feeds a lot easier.
Yeah.
And, but the problem is, one, you have to accept everyone as friends. It becomes confusing. People like me, if they realize that, wait, this isn't a page or group, this is a profile. I've not followed people because of that, and nothing against them. It's just, I find that unprofessional. So I stay away from anyone who does that.
With pages, Facebook is now penalizing you if you have a lot of users that don't engage with your content.
Mm-hmm.
So don't go out on one of these missions that you're going to get 10,000 people to like your page and you don't care who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have 10,000 people on your page and 9,900 of them don't engage, it will hurt your page more than if you only had 100 people like your page that were super engaged.
Yeah. Or one of them was engaged. Yeah.
So you really want to be careful, about like going into big groups and going, hey, like my page, everybody like my page. Because if they never see your content and they don't interact with it, it's worse for you. Okay. It's going to bring down your overall engagement.
And let us know in the Facebook group, in our Facebook group, if you have experience of people searching for content in Facebook. I don't think that happens a lot.
I don't think so. I search in Pinterest, but I don't search in Facebook.
Yeah, I've done it in Pinterest. I've done it in Twitter, but I've tried a couple times in Facebook. I just don't like the way it works. Even after they added the hashtags, it just...
Yeah, and they were originally... Facebook is weird because Facebook doesn't want... They don't want posts coming into Facebook from other social media. So for a while, they were actually penalizing people for putting hashtags in their posts because they thought that was like instant, this must be coming from Twitter and we hate Twitter.
Which is silly.
But with Instagram using hashtags now, and Instagram is owned by Facebook, I think Facebook has started to move away from that. But if Facebook gets the idea that your posts are coming from another social media and you're reusing them, that could hurt you.
Oh.
It also hurts you. And this is one I really don't care about. It does hurt your numbers if you use a third-party scheduler. But frankly, the way that I look at it is I would rather have some content that's being engaged by some people than have no content on my page because I don't have time.
Yeah.
So...
And let's be honest, even if you're doing this full time, more important things should come up than social media. If social media is the most important thing in your business, that's actually a problematic sign.
Right. I agree. Okay. So that's the basics for pages. Now, like my favorite thing right now, like we have a page for Small Biz Life.
Which I haven't even been to in a while.
Yeah. And everything in that page is pretty much automated. If there's a deadline or something like that, or I find a neat news article, I'll post it in there. But pretty much everything in there is all automated.
Yeah.
I spend my time in my group. Okay. So groups are communities.
Yes.
The nice thing with groups is that you can set privacy settings for your group. So you can have an open group, which means anybody can join it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You can have a closed group, okay, which is what we do with our groups. A closed group is a group where people request to join and you have to approve them.
That's important, though, if the group is shareable, if you want the content shareable, but you want to help control the spammers getting into your community.
Right. You can also have a secret group. This is good for if you're running a course and you want people to be able to get into the group. A secret group, you either have to add them or they have to have a link. It is not searchable on Facebook. It won't come up in, hey, you've got 80 friends that are members of this group. If it's a secret group, that will never happen. So one of the things is you can't share from a group, which is why you need to have a page, because people who like your page can share your content. If you're in a group, you can't share content. You can click on an article and you can share, the article from its original location, but it won't indicate that it came from your group.
Yeah.
If you have a closed group or a secret group, people who are not in the group cannot see the content. So if you're trying, like with our small business group, sometimes people ask, we get into like the nitty gritty of some people's businesses. They don't want everybody they know to see that. So if you have a closed group, people feel safer there. They feel like they can share their struggles and their hardships and their wins, or things like they don't want other people to know. So that's another benefit of having a group is it's really good for building community. If you want people to get actively engaged in your content, that's a really good way to do it. with our group for Small Biz Life, all of that automated content that's going into my page does not go into the group.
Yeah.
We have 4 different days where we ask people, to engage. We have Motivation Monday, which is, because Mondays are tough, right? So, we have a post every Monday that says, hey, what is getting you going this morning? Wednesdays, we ask people to share their wins. Fridays, we ask people to share how they did with their task list and what they're planning to do for next week. And then Saturdays, we do a social Saturday where people can share their own stuff. That's it. Those are the only 4 automations that go into the group. And that's because we're trying to build community.
Yeah.
So people will listen to a podcast episode and they'll ask questions about it, something that we talked about. I don't want to post every single, people know, especially the people in the group, because they're really engaged. They know that the podcast comes out on Monday.
Yep.
I don't need to tell them the podcast comes out on, they know, so I'm not really worried about that. Now, if the group had 10,000 people in it, but we're not there.
But even that, I don't like that. It's like, I don't like spamming my groups, whether I'm, and part of this is a question to your avatar. Some avatar groups maybe want that content. Me, I don't. And so that's one of the reasons we don't do it in the group anymore. Because once we get the page set up, there was no need to.
Right.
And it's really not super useful because it's really for your core audience. The reason we have the 4 days is because we want to keep our people engaging the community as much as possible. And that to us is why we have the group.
Right. And, we were very conscious about what our avatar wanted, right? So like a lot of people really want a place to share their stuff. It's really important when you set up a group to kind of put some rules in place early, because as your group grows, it's harder to manage.
Yeah.
And so, I like having the social share, and most big groups have like a sharing day. Because they explicitly say, if you share your own content, if you're being self-promotional, we will delete it and you from the group.
Yeah.
But they give that one day where you can do that. And so I really like that.
Yeah. And I think too, if your avatar is a group of people who have stuff they want to share and they want to show off, give them the outlet, but you don't want it to be all over all the time, or else, it's like one of the earlier groups we did that I haven't been to in a long time. It just became people sharing their post.
Yeah.
And the whole reason the group started up became completely useless because you wouldn't notice the questions because they'd get buried in the feed by 17 blog posts that day.
Right. And so, I like groups to be about community. I like there to be more user generated content than content generated from us.
Yes.
And that tends to be the case in our group. And I love that. I love that people feel comfortable enough to ask us questions or to share their wins or to share their struggles. So that's really, that is where your best customers are going to be. Okay. That is where the heart of your fan base, right, is going to be. And I love that. And I love being able to interact with them every day.
Yes, and I would say treat them like family, but different families have different meanings in that, so I won't.
And here's one thing with a group. There's no way to invite someone to like your group or to join your group.
Yes.
When you go through and when you go through your friends list and you check people off, you are actually adding them to the group.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that there is no easier way to piss off your family and friends than to start adding them to groups.
And I can't tell you, occasionally I will go and I'm probably going to become meaner about this over time. And I belong to all of these groups, half of which, some of them I can't even read the language in. And I'm like, I didn't join this group. And then you realize, oh, wait, someone just added me to their group. I hate that.
Yeah, I will actually, if I get added to too many groups, I will actually unfriend people over it.
Yeah, no, that's going to be my newer strategy, I think, is once people are my friends, if they add me to groups, especially if I can't read the language,
Yeah.
Usually if I see someone ask for someone to join a group or like a page, as long as the page does not horribly offend me, and it has to be pretty bad because I kind of like to be offended, but as long as it doesn't horribly offend me, and it's like someone's business, even like a small business. I belong to small business pages, and for businesses I'll never go to, like in England.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Until I'm a big writer and I'm visiting England on a book tour, then I'll probably go visit just because I like their page.
That's one thing, is like when people invite me to like a page, I'll go check it out. If it's a small business, I usually join it. Even if you said like, I have friends in Australia that I like their pages, and
some lighting company somewhere I'm a fan of, and occasionally I'll see their posts, and I'll sometimes even click through and like it. But it's like I have no idea who the people are.
But again, like we said before, you've got to be careful, because if you invite us to like a page for your small business and we do, and then we never see posts about it because it's not in our geographic area, because remember the Facebook algorithm, right, is going to decide what you get to see and what you don't. Yeah. We might actually be hurting your page, right? So I don't know. We might want to be more conscious about that.
Yeah, and one of the things too is you can set a page up to be a community page. And I think the algorithm's a bit more forgiving in that sense.
Yeah. Those are really the basics for each one of those. Okay. And we did talk about, some of the pros and cons of each one. A couple just real quick recap takeaways. Make sure that your profile is your real name. Okay. Make sure that you have a page for your business and that page is linked into your profile. So when people learn more about you, they can also go to your page and like it. Groups are really for building community. Don't add people to groups unless you've asked them to do so. If you want, put a link to your group, in your profile, or a link to your group in your page, and let people organically come.
Yeah.
Okay. And you want to use, you probably want to use a closed group, so that way people can find it and you have control over who you add to the group. Plus it provides some anonymity for the people who, are participating with your group, because their friends and family can't see their posts.
And just the same way you probably don't like the spam in Facebook, neither do they. And if the spam gets out of control in your group, you might lose participation that way.
Right. And that's why you might want to have, I know a lot of groups, when they get to a certain size, they actually add more admins that can help control the spam.
Yeah.
So, you might want to consider that as well.
And usually, I think the rule of thumb there is people who've been active that you notice who are active and helpful, those are probably the people that you approach, but ask first.
Right. Exactly. So my tip of the week is to use a scheduling app to help you schedule posts. We use two particular apps, and these are going to be our apps for the week. We use Buffer, and we use Edgar.
Love that one too.
Okay, so explain what you use Buffer for, and I'll explain what I use Edgar for.
I use Buffer because one of my strategies is I target fantasy and science fiction genre authors, and I want to share out the content they're sharing out, whether it's the book they're releasing or the writing tips post or whatever it is, editors, that kind of stuff, things that would be relevant to my audience or my audience would be interested in, which is fantasy or science fiction or genre fiction. So I use that. I'll find content, and I should probably be more careful when I share it to Facebook, I guess. But I'll buffer the content. So I'll share it into Buffer, and then it'll put it into a queue, which will then share it out on a timetable into Twitter or Facebook. It does, I believe, LinkedIn and Pinterest. I think that might be it at this point.
Okay. So that's more for like you find something, you want to share it with your community.
Yeah, exactly.
Buffer is much more mobile friendly in trying to schedule content than Edgar is. The thing that I use Edgar for, and Edgar's pricey compared to some of the other social media scheduling apps. But what Edgar does is Edgar allows me to build libraries of content. So if you like our page, or like we talked about the 4 posts we do every week, I built a library and said, okay, share this out on Monday, share this out on Wednesday, share this out on Friday, share this out on Saturday. It's the same 4 posts that go out every single week on those days.
And the great thing is with that is, you know, if you get a doctor appointment that you have to go to and you're not there at your computer the way you normally are, it goes out. The community is used to seeing it, you know, maybe first thing or at a certain time during the day. And it guarantees that.
Right. Edgar also handles the feed from, you know, the podcast feed and puts it into the page. I have like 12 different posts that are on like self-care and business tips that go into my page. Edgar does that. When it hits the last one, it recycles and starts again with the first one.
Yeah. And for my show, I use Edgar for my podcast episodes. And I believe we do it for Small Biz Life as well, too, where I share them out onto Twitter and into my Facebook group page. And essentially, when there's a new post, it throws that one up there. Otherwise, it will take a post that's been up there before and share that.
Yeah. And the nice thing is because we have different libraries, we can say, all right, I want something from this library to be posted on this day at this time. And you can split your social media feeds.
Yeah.
So if you follow me on Twitter, you might see a different business tip post in the afternoon than the one that you saw on Facebook in the morning.
Yes.
So that's kind of neat. You know, I like having different content show up in different places. It does Facebook, which you can do to your profile, to your page, to your group. It does Twitter, and it does LinkedIn. So those are the ones that it handles right now.
Yep. And, you know, it's good too. And, you know, like I said, we use the same profile to do Small Biz Life and Gardool. And you notice, like, you don't see, at least hopefully not, you don't see World Builder Anvil showing up on our feed, or you don't see. Sometimes I do share out Small Biz Life stuff on my Twitter feed, but that's different. You know?
And with Edgar, you get 10 social media accounts.
Yeah.
That you can, and I think we're at 10 at this point.
Yeah.
You know, but it's nice because if you have multiple businesses or you have multiple brands, you can probably use one account.
Yeah.
And just build libraries for each one of them so that you don't share across, you know, information. And you can, Edgar does have a use once feature, which is really easy to use if you're on a computer.
Yeah.
It does not work super well if you're on social media or if you're on your mobile device.
Where Buffer, if I'm in the thing, I can literally click through a Facebook tweet, add that in, and it will retweet it out.
Yeah. So, you know, you've got to know what you want your social media schedulers to do. And then find what you need them. You know, find the ones that are right for you. And there's tons of them out there. These are not the only 2.
And you can also do quick cheats as well with programs like If Then Then That and Zapier to actually take posts that you're posting. And at the time that happens, share them out to different places. But once again, software like that isn't really great at like doing it again.
Right. And, you know, one thing while we're talking about social media, just kind of wrap up real quick. If your traffic is dependent on Google search, share it on Google Plus.
Yeah.
Because sharing on Google Plus automatically indexes your page. So if that is one of your strategies is to, you know, build up your Google search, share on Google Plus. And you can use something on your website called Shareaholic, which I love Shareaholic. It makes it easy for people to share your stuff on social media. And one of the buttons is Google Plus. So when your post goes live, click the Google Plus, hit OK, poof, you're done.
Or, you know, any Google property that you post a link to you'll be shocked to learn a high page rank for Google. So don't be afraid to put YouTube videos that talk about it and then link back to your website. These things will all help your SEO as well.
Yep. All right. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You know, go through and start to look at your social media strategy, especially on Facebook. Make sure that your profile and your page and your groups are set up the way that you want them to. And look at scheduling social media, because even though it hurts your page ranking a little bit, it will make your life so much easier.
Yes.
So have a good week. Take some time for some self-care. And I'm going to go drink my coffee now. Thank you for listening to Small Biz Life. If you enjoyed the show, please take a few minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Please visit smallbizlife.com to view today's show notes, take this week's poll, join the Facebook community, follow us on Twitter, or submit a question for the mailbag. Support the show by checking the resources page or by going to smallbizlife.com/Amazon whenever you shop.
This was Small Biz Life. This was Small Biz Life.